Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Gio. Today we're going to talk about what I hated the most about being a manager, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and get right into it. So I started my first management position when I was 16. I was still a junior in high school, and honestly, this is all I wanted at the point. At the point, all I wanted was to be able to call myself a manager at the age of 16, right? Because I consider myself a very entrepreneurial person. If I not to try to sound cocky or whatever, but I really did enjoy my experience as a manager. However, there's some things that really fucked it up. For example, let's go ahead and get to number one. Again, I want to emphasize the fact that I was 16 and I was being the manager, and the fact that I had to deal with, let's say, 30-something-year-old people who are just bum-ass workers. Let me just go ahead and address this by saying that if you're one of these people, then you really need to reconsider what you're doing with your life, because if you need a 16-year-old person, or let's say, you know what, let's bump it up a little bit. Let's say a 20-something-year-old person and you're already 30-something or whatever, and you're working, and you need them to be present in order for you to be doing your job, then you really need to consider your work ethic, because with that pace, you're never going to be getting out of the job that you're at right now. For example, if you're working at a Wendy's, right? I was working at a Burger King, at a local Burger King, and I was the manager there. And I had some people, for example, like this 35-year-old woman that wanted to be an HR manager, and she was always talking about how she hated her job. How are you ever going to become an HR manager if you cannot even administer your work ethic? If you require that I am present in order for you to do your job, how on earth are you going to be a good HR manager, right? How are you going to be managing human capital if you cannot even manage yourself? You need me to be there. This goes out to that 44-year-old guy I also kicked out of the store and I fired him. This one Cuban guy got up all up in my face because I was telling him how to do his job. Why? Well, he only had 2 weeks of experience working at the store I was managing. And he was already screaming at everybody. He was already getting mad because I was telling him what to do. He was already getting mad because of the schedule he was getting. Beggars can be choosers, right? I'm Mexican, but if you're coming to this country illegally and I'm hiring you because I'm being empathetic and I feel your pain and I want to bring you in as an illegal immigrant and pay you and sponsor you and have you work at my store, and then you still come here and talk all of this nonsense and scream at people and not do your job right and then talk back to me, boy, ooh, I'm sorry, man, but you're not going to be working with me. Get out of my store. And it really sucks to be able to be saying this because nobody likes firing people. Nobody likes firing people. But when you're undergoing a lot of stress, like having to keep your expenses at a very minimum because you have higher ups talking and sending you emails and sending you quotas and requirements and sending you letters saying that you need to keep your labor percentage at a very minimum, which is pretty much what amount of revenue you're paying out to your employees for that business day. Personally, if my job could be easier as a manager when I was 16, I would honestly just bring in 6 cashiers and 6 cooks, right? We have a lot of people working, everything will be going fine, fast and smooth. But when you have to consider the expenses for the revenue you're bringing in for that day, you can't be paying everything out to employees, right? You're barely breaking even at that point. So that's not something that is easy. You have to keep that in mind. So with that being said, I hated that too. What else did I hate? I hated the fact that I couldn't even fend for myself. I was managing a fast food restaurant that was located in South Houston, Texas, which, the fact that I got robbed 6 fucking times, and I couldn't, and I got yelled at for bringing in a gun to work just to be able to defend myself at the age of 17. Why are you gonna tell me that I can't defend myself, or that I can't at least feel confident coming into work because I have a pistol with me, because you don't want that kind of responsibility? I understand, but if you don't want me to bring a weapon to work, which again, they told me I couldn't bring it, so I didn't bring it anymore. In fact, I even got rid of it. But if you don't want me to be protecting myself and feel safe managing the store, given the demographics surrounding the store, how else am I supposed to be a good manager? I was a good manager. I managed people, but just having to deal with the fact that you might get robbed at gunpoint at any time, that's not gonna let you work in peace. You have people, you have to be watching your back and watching who comes in and out of the store. You have to be able to consider all of the expenses that are going out. You have to consider that the fact that you're working with some irresponsible people that don't want to work unless you are present and you are telling them what to do. And then you got to make sure that as a manager, you're able to close and clock out at a given time in order to not waste more company money. I completely understand that. I completely understand that because I understand the fact that as a company, the objective is to make money, right? So how do you achieve that objective? Sell and keep expenses at a very minimum. But you gotta understand that sometimes managers working in fast food restaurants, they just can't deal with everything. They just can't deal with everything all at once. Sometimes you have to have two managers, but if you have two managers, they're getting paid more than all of the other employees. So guess what that does to your expenses? It raises them because you're bringing in, let's say you're bringing in at that very store $10,000 in one day, right? You're bringing in $10,000 in one single business day, and you already have two managers working one shift that are getting paid each, let's say $100 a day. You have 5 workers who are all getting paid $70 a day. Right, so let's go ahead and see 350 plus 200, 550 for one shift. And then you have the other shift, the morning shift, right? Because I was always closing at night. So you have the morning shift and they're getting paid more because the store manager's there. So what happens? You already exceeded that $1,000 mark because that's more than 10% of the $10,000 you are bringing. So now you are doing a bad job, right? You got to be careful whenever you take a management position because honestly, there's nothing worse than a manager taking a management position because of the dollar. If you're going to take a management position, you got to keep this in mind. Honestly, it was a great growth opportunity. And I do not regret being a manager, but if you want to be a manager in the future, all I can say is good luck. I really do hope you go through with this, and just be careful. Enjoy the ride. It's gonna get bumpy as fuck, but enjoy the ride. And if you're a manager, if you're managing a Burger King, a McDonald's, a Chick-fil-A, or whatever, I really want to hear from you too. So let me know if you agree with what I just said. If not, then I completely understand. But anyways, I want to hear what you think. Appreciate it.